Alright, so we're getting close to the end of the semester here. So, what I wanted to show y'all today is how to actually build an application file, like a game build. I think everybody went through the Unity 3D Game Kit stuff, right? Level Design 1. Or is anybody that came before that or didn't use that? No? Okay. So remember in there we had to go to File, Build, right, and to build a copy of the game. So we're going to look at that today, and we're also going to look at how to create a simple main menu system. That is going to be a requirement for your final project, is that you have that and that you're able to pause. Did we already look at game pausing? We haven't looked at that yet? Okay. I don't remember if they did that with the UI lecture a while back. Alright, so I got my project here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, New Level, and use the default one here. And we are going to use this to make a main menu level. So you can base it off whatever you'd like. Some people will take another scene, right, one of your actual levels, and put a camera in there, and then use that as kind of the background elements. Or if you have just UI, it's really up to whatever you want to do, right? All right. So, but if I hit play in here, right, I'm in charge of my character, right? And that's not really what we want. So there's a couple things we got to do. One of them, the first thing, is that we need to make a separate game mode that we're going to use to override in the world settings. We're going to put it right here. And then when that gets overridden, we won't have our player spawning into the game. We'll just be able to show the mouse cursor and whatnot. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do that in here, in the Blueprints folder. So Blueprints, and then I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this Game Modes. Oh, do I already have one in here? Oh, I do. Game Modes. Oh, this is from the one from last time. Perfect. Well, this actually makes it a little bit easier. Do y'all have this one here, GM_gameplay? If not, that's okay. If you do have one, just go ahead and duplicate it. You can press Ctrl-W, I believe, to make a copy. And call it GM_main menu. If you don't have one, you can right-click in the background and then click Blueprint Class. And then right here it says Game Mode Base. So we just want to create one of those. And then let's open it up. Okay, it looks like we had some stuff in here from the other one, the gameplay game mode. So I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff because we don't need it. So basically all we have is a blank template to work with. Now if you click on class defaults up here at the top and then look on the right side in the details panel, you will see all the different classes that it will load, right? So game session, game state, player controller, player state, default pawn class, right? That's all this stuff. When you hit play, that is loaded in. And what's nice about Unreal, as we looked at earlier, in the world settings, so settings, world settings, you can override that. So I want to make sure that my game mode is not using our player character. We're just going to pretend that we're not doing console or anything. We're just doing a PC game, right? So mouse and keyboard. I'm going to get rid of this here. So now it should say default pawn and default pawn class. And then hit compile and save. And then let's go back to the map. And then, yeah, settings, world settings. and it might come up over here somewhere or have a different window. But over here in the game mode override where it says none or it says something else, right, one of the other game modes, click on that and select GM_MainMenu. And then hit play. So when you hit play now, you can move the mouse around, right? But I don't have an actual character here. It's kind of like a spectator camera, right? Now what I'm going to do is make a little simple scene here, so you can do whatever you'd like with this part. I'm actually going to take my mutant idol, right? And I'm going to put him here. Maybe somewhere like this, right? And then I'm going to add a camera to the scene. So let's pretend our shot's something like that, right? And then I'm going to hit save. And we just want to save this map as the main menu. So I'm just going to call it main menu. And then if you want to, you can create a new folder for your levels. Oh, is there already a maps folder? Then we'll put it in here. It's good to keep things organized, right? Alright, so this is called main menu. Now I don't want to, in this example, I don't really want to be in charge of the camera, right, and looking around and whatnot. So I can actually have it switch to a separate camera. And you can do that by coming over here to the modes panel, right? And then type in camera. There's a cinematic camera that has some more settings. I'm just going to use the basic one here. And just drag and drop it into the scene. Looks like something, you know, you'd see on the set of somebody they're working on a film or whatever, a TV show. Now you can click on it, move it around, right, and I'll show you a preview, but it's a little hard to kind of get the shot like you want it moving around like this, right? There's a really cool thing that you can do with cameras, and I think we talked about this back when we did the camera switching for gameplay. This is kind of the same setup, but you can right-click on this, right? And then there's an option that says pilot, and there's like a little airplane. So when you pilot something, you are now seeing through its eyes, so to speak, right? And over here it says pilot, active, and it shows you what it's piloting. Now you're in control of that camera, and you can position it however you want. So I'm going to do it like right here or something. Right? And when you're done, you can press the eject button. Right? And that left my camera there at that angle. So again, yeah, if you want to control this, right, you just right click on it. Pilot. You can take control over it and fly it around. And then when you want to get out, there's a button at the top left that says eject, so like this. Another cool thing that you can do is save a bookmark for your camera when you're flying it around in the world. So let's say I want to press G to toggle game mode, so it kind of hides all the editor icons. And let's say I wanted a different shot, maybe instead of the text being on the right side, maybe it's right here, right? We're kind of looking up at him like he's really big, right? If you hold down Control and then press one of the number keys, you can save a camera bookmark. So I want to press Control 1, and that saved a bookmark at this camera location, right? So I can move my camera around, right? And then if I press 1 on my keyboard, it'll snap back to that camera angle. Yes. 10, unless they have another option in bookmarks. Yeah, 10 bookmarks. You can also get to there from this little drop down arrow. Bookmarks. You can set a bookmark, clear them, and then, yeah, control and whatever number. So if I press 1, that's my new camera location, right? Well, what's cool about that was, let's say I have my camera here, right? And I have it selected. And then I press 1, right? And then I can right click on my camera actor over here in the world outliner if it's not in your scene, right? And then there's an option that says snap view to object or snapped object to view. So if I press snap object to view, the camera will now be at the same location as my viewport camera. See, it's looking up like that. So I'm going to do, let's see, this is that first bookmark, and let's put back the other one like this. Something like that maybe. And I'll press Control 2. So there's camera angle 1. Here's camera angle 2. If I wanted to try out different camera angles, I already have those set, and I can just click on here, right? Press 2, right click, and then snap object to view, and now it's at the same view. Or if I like this one better, I kind of liking this one a little bit better. He's a little bit more daunting. Right click, snap object to this view, right? And you can see what the camera's looking at down here. Alright, so we've got that set up, right? Now what I want to do is go find my level blueprint. So we've been creating actor blueprints, right? You can drag and drop in the scene. Every level has its own level blueprint that's specifically for that map. Sometimes you can put stuff in here that you can't do anywhere else. This is one of those examples. So I'm going to select on my camera, right? And then I'm going to go Blueprints at the very top. Open Level Blueprint. And it'll open up a separate tab, right? And it'll say whatever the map name is right here. And down the bottom it says Level Blueprint. So on Begin Play, I want to switch cameras to this camera that we haven't seen, right? What's really neat about level blueprints is that if I right click, I have an option to create a reference to this blueprint in the scene. That's probably the biggest difference between this and one of the regular actors. Right? And then I'm going to pull a pin off and say set view target with blend. This basically just means switch cameras. Yeah, and then the camera actor, you can, once you have it selected in the level, you can just right click. And as long as context sensitive is turned on, there should be an option to create a reference. And you can do that with anything in the scene. If I clicked on my mutant here, right click, create a reference. Okay, so we're going to say, hey, this is the new view target. This is how long I want to take it to blend to this new camera, right? And there's some other options down here for how it blends. I'm going to leave it at 0, so when you hit play, it'll automatically snap there. Took 1 frame to get over there. And then this option here, where it says target, we need to put in a player controller. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to pull a pin off and type get player controller. And then hit compile. And then save. Yes. This part? Yeah, I pulled a pin off of the camera actor. or the player controller, it doesn't matter, and then type in set view target with blend. If you don't see it, you can turn off the context sensitive box, and then it should show up right here. Context sensitive, it'll only find things that you can do with this particular reference, right? So whatever you pull a pin off of, it'll say, hey, these are the things that you can do with it, or send a message to it, right? It's trying to help you find stuff easier, because there's a lot of nodes in there in Unreal, a lot of functionality. So if you can't find it, I usually just turn it off. Alright, so I'm going to hit save, and then let's go back to the map and then hit play. And what happens? Your camera should take control, right? And it has these kind of black bars on the sides, right? That basically means that the what is that called? The aspect ratio, yeah, for this particular camera, this one, right, is different from what your main camera is, or at least for the viewport here. So basically you're saying, hey, this is a cutscene or something. And I can't move around, right, because we don't have control of the player anymore, because we switched cameras, right? Now we want to make sure that the mouse will show up on screen, the cursor, and then we can go and create our UI for the main menu itself with a widget. So a couple more steps and then we'll get to packaging. So I'm going to go back, let's see, is that all we need to do here? Yeah, okay, so I'm going to close that, and let's go back to the main menu game mode. So blueprints, game modes, GM, main menu. I'm going to get rid of that event tick down at the bottom, and in here I'm going to right click and type get player controller again. And on every controller there should be an option that says set show mouse cursor, I believe. Yep. Set, show mouse cursor. And that just requires a player controller. Right? And then we want to turn it on so we can see our mouse moving around. And then here in a minute we are going to create our widget and add that logic here for getting it to show on screen. This just allows us to click it. Alright? So let's go back to test this part. Good, I've got my mouse cursor now. I can actually see it on the screen. Right? If you click on the viewport, it doesn't do anything. Awesome. Alright, now on to the actual menu stuff. So I think we have a UI folder here. I'm just going to right click in the background and go to user interface, and at the very bottom it says widget blueprint. Create our UI element, and we'll just call this main menu. And we'll open it up. Now here, this kind of depends on what options you want to have in the game. Usually they'll have a start, play, resume, you know, whatever. Options and quit. What I'm requesting for you all on this project that you're working on is that you have a play option and that you have quit. The resolution, you can leave it default. It was 1920 by 1080. I think that's pretty standard now. This one, actual game you're going to put on Steam or whatever, right? You need to have some other options, right? Yeah. So that takes a little bit to set up, so we're not going to cover that part of it. I'm going to add in some text here. All right, and my guy's on this side of the screen, so you want to make sure that you're not overlapping any of your art in the background. let's see. I guess our name of our game is going to be text block. So I'm going to change that here. Block out. Block out, man. Doomsday. There. Doomsday. Yeah, because doesn't he look like, he looks like Doomsday. Alright, so Doomsday. I'm going to get rid of that, though. That makes it.
There's only a couple of fonts in there. How do you get more fonts than that?
Okay, so Nick asked, how do you get more fonts? If you go online, right, there's a couple of font sites that you can download stuff from. Just make sure it's royalty free. And it is actually free, otherwise you gotta pay for a license and whatnot. There's an option to download it as a TTF file, which is a true type font. And then you can drag and drop that into Unreal and it'll recognize it. And then like for this one, right, or some of these other options, you can change like, hey, there's a regular mode, bold, italic, light version, the size on the screen, and then in here you can change that font, right? So yeah, that's how you go about doing that. So we got our text in there. Now we need some menu buttons. It is always a good thing to keep things organized when you're working on a project. That includes UI as well. So we're going to add some containers into here so that we can kind of organize our information, even though we're only going to have 2 buttons. There is something called a vertical box that you can type here in the search bar in the palette. Basically, it just allows you to put things inside of it and it'll align them vertically, right? There's also a horizontal box and a grid, uniform grid, and then one where you can kind of change the size of all the boxes. So I'm going to drag this into here. And then this, maybe I'll anchor it to the left side of the screen. This option here. And then I'm not going to change the size of this because whatever I put in it, right, it'll adjust. So I'm going to do a button. And then I'm going to drag and drop the button into the hierarchy here on top of vertical box. Right, so there's one button. And we're going to drag one more. Right? And then if I click on vertical box, and over here in the details panel, it should say size to content, right? So when you turn that on, these will be based, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, there we go. These will be based on a particular size, right? So if I change my box padding, right? Let's say like, oh, that's changing the actual. Where is the option for? I can't find that option. I think that's because this is a newer version of Unreal. Alright, I lied. Turn off context sensitive. We're just going to stretch this for now. There are options here when you click on the buttons or anything that's inside of a vertical box to stretch them, right? Oh, there we go. Maybe it's fill. Okay. Yeah, there's an option that says auto and will only fill up a part of the space, and then fill will kind of like, it'll be greedy and take up the rest of it, right? And then, yeah, maybe we can do it like that. And I'm going to get rid of the padding on that. Okay. So there are 2 buttons, right? They're too close together, so you can add something in here called a spacer. Spacer. And then you can take that and put it in between these, right? So it says spacer in between. And then over here on the right side, it says appearance, and then there's an X and a Y. So I'm going to put the Y at like, I don't know, 20, 25 maybe. And see, when I stretch the box, these buttons get a little bit larger, right? Alright, so I'll move the entire vertical box over here. Alright. And now I want to label the buttons. So if I click on over here, press F2, rename. Let's call this one play button. And the one at the bottom, let's say quit button. And that labels them for you here in the editor, but we don't have any text yet, right? So let's go grab another text element, and then you can drag and drop that in each of your buttons. There are options for how you want the text to appear in here, right? So if you want them centered or off to the side, right? Horizontal alignment, vertical alignment. You can change the colors, the fonts, and then on the actual button itself, if you click on it in the details panel, it says appearance over here, and then something that says style. So style is basically referring to all the different settings for the different states of the button. So when it's just sitting here, right, that's considered normal. When you have your mouse over it, it's going to do this, right? When you hit the, when you click on it, when it's pressed, it'll do something else. And then if it's disabled, it'll look like this. And then there's options for like a sound if you have your mouse over it, and when you click on it, and the basic color and opacity. I'm going to change, I think it's the background color. We can switch it on over to something. Alright, see you later. Let's do something.
Other options for changing, like, instead of a color, like a material or
Yeah.
an image?
Yeah, so the image here, it can be a material, it can be a texture, right? And then there's an option for how you want it to draw. So if it looks funky or whatever, you can just change it to image and it'll show up like that.
Do custom images work the same way, just drag and drop?
Do what now?
Custom images?
Yeah, you just basically put them right here.
So if I wanted to bring it outside of Unreal, I just kind of make the window smaller, or click it out of one of my folders and just drag and drop it?
You have to import it as a texture into the project, right? So like this lightning bolt bar that we have, you know, I could set that to be the background.
Okay.
And then set this to image. See what's done?
And as far as like getting custom text, you'd have to import it into the Unreal?
Yeah, you import a font file. Yeah, TTF. Yeah. All right.
I'm sure if you're talking about dragging and dropping it into it, or actually importing it.
No, you have to import it into the editor first, and then you can put it in here, or click on the drop down. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do something like that, maybe. And I'm going to save this color. I'm going to drag it up here for now, just so we can see it. So there's our play button. So I'm going to change the text in the content tab here. Say play. Alright, and then this one will say quit. That color is bothering me, but you know, it is what it is. Alright. Doomsday is angry, so we'll leave it maybe. Something like that. Alright, whatever, it doesn't matter. Click OK. Play, quit. Now, we need to set up some logic for when we click on our buttons, right? We also need to add this to the viewport. So I'm going to get this on the viewport first, and then we'll add the logic second. So, alright, we're in our scene here. Let's go back to the game mode for the main menu. And then let's create widget. Remember, that's how we get our UI into the game, right? That's how we spawn it in. And then we actually want to add it to the screen. So return value, add to viewport. And hit compile. And save. Now if you go back to the level, you should be able to see your UI and then click play. You get an error, Kenny? Oh, did not have a, there you go, okay. Yeah, you gotta have a class here, otherwise it'll throw an error. Alright, so I'm gonna hit play, and I'm gonna go full screen. So there's the game, right? It's kinda cool, he's kinda idling there. Doomsday. And then I have quit, right? And I have play. Now see that there's the different states running, right? So this is normal, and then this is hover, right? So you can change what happens, right, when it does that. And then there's quit, and then when you click play, see it kind of like it goes down a little bit, right? It changes the padding. That's just good feedback for the player and whatever you're using. You're actually pressing something, right? So they don't do anything yet, but we're going to have this one load up our third-person example map. In your case, it would be whatever level you want them to load, right? The first one. And then quit will actually quit the game. So I'm going to hit escape. Let's go set up the logic for the buttons. We'll add the maps into our project settings so we can build it, and then we'll actually build it. Alright, so I'm going to go to the graph. After I click on the button, and we're down here at the bottom, see it says events on clicked. So when we click on it, I'll create a new event for us on clicked, and then that's why we name our buttons, right? So we know which is which. You can have another widget or something to fade to black or whatever, or put like a little icon for loading, right? I'm just gonna do open level, and then you want to type in the name of the level that you want to load. So the one that we've been working on, I'm gonna hide the engine content real quick because I don't want to see that. Third person example map. So if I come over here and then copy that name, I can paste that here. And that should open the level. Now, there have been bugs in the past where people try to do this part and it doesn't work. I think maybe that's because it doesn't do it in the regular viewport. We might have to try it in a standalone game. But open level does work. Alright, so we've got that part, and then let's click on quit and do the same thing. Yes.
Could you use the same open level to go from one level to the next? As if you're advancing in levels and everything?
Are you talking about like the actual stage or the map file? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they do to change levels, yeah.
Coolio.
Mm-hmm. No, we don't want to open level for that. Quit. So there's an option that says quit game, right? Under here. And then quit preference. just leave it at quit. There's an option that says go to background. I think that's kind of like minimizing the game. And then here, if you have multiplayer, you can decide which player is actually quitting. Okay, so that's set up. I'm going to save that and go back to the map file and then hit play. And I'm going to click on quit first. Right, so it killed the game. That's good. Now let's see if this one works. Okay, good. Yay. I think there was a whatever version of Unreal we had on here last couple semesters that did not work in the editor. You had to actually do it in a build version. Okay, so here's our game, right? I think we might talk about the pause menu later. I just wanted to make sure that you know how to package this. So right now our game has two levels. We have main menu and we have the third person example map, right? The one that you're actually playing on. So we have to tell Unreal, hey, these are the levels that we want to package. We don't want to package everything in the game, otherwise that would be a huge file. And then we want to create an application out of it, right? So that people using Windows can run it. So if you go up here to Edit, and then Project Settings, we want to find a tab on the left that says Maps and Modes. So over here we have default game mode, right? So if you don't have a game mode selected in the world settings for the map override, right, it's going to default to this. And then down here we have editor startup maps. When we open the editor, this is what map that opens. And then the game default map, this is what happens when you hit play or when you run the application. So we don't actually want this to be our game map. We want this to be our main menu. Main menu. So yeah, this is what's going to open first, right? And then the main menu, we have it linked to our actual game level or levels. So that's set up. And now what we want to do is go down to packaging. It's right here. It's right down. It's 2 down from maps and modes. This section is kind of confusing. Basically, what we're doing is we're going to add these maps into here to tell it which ones you want to load. So if you scroll down all this other stuff, right, you might get stuck on this section here, the different localizations. Keep scrolling down and you'll see something that says list of maps to include in a packaged build. So see if you can find that section, and then I'll have a plus next to it and a little trash can. So you want to add each map that's actually going to be in the game to this section right here. So I'm going to hit plus, plus, because we only have 2 maps, right? And these don't have to be in order of the actual game. That doesn't matter. It's just saying, hey, which ones are included. That's why in the maps and modes we told it which one should come first, basically. So on the first one, it says element 0. There's a section that says ... So if you click on that, and then let's just add the main menu first. So content, this is not the right folder. Hang on. Should go to wherever your project is. Mine didn't for some reason. Content, here we go. Maps, MainMenu.umap. Don't worry about the build data asset. That's just for lighting. That's not an actual map file. So MainMenu.umap, right? And it'll have the directory here, game, maps, or whatever you got. And then the second one, oh man, I did the same thing. Oh, that's frustrating. hang on. Third person BP maps. There we go. That's why it's best to keep all of your stuff in one place. All right, third person example map .umap. So there's a directory for each of those and our list of maps to include. There's some other options in here. One of them says, where's that option? Somewhere it basically says make a compressed version. It kind of shrinks the game down, right? But when you run it, it'll take longer to open. So there's kind of, you can decide whether that's worth it to do it or not. Just from personal experience, when we upload one of our games to, I think, like itch.io, and they're like, you can only have 1 gigabyte. And we were like, well, our game is 2 gigabytes. So we had to, get rid of a bunch of stuff, right, in the project and make sure we only include the maps that we were using. And then one of these options was kind of basically compress it. So I don't see that particular option here. It may have moved somewhere else. But yeah, you can leave it like that. And then there's a build configuration. You can decide which version that you want to build. When you do it for real, it'll say development and shipping, and I think there's one more. It's like a test build or whatever. Do what now? Shipping client. Yeah. So, yeah, basically you would either do mainly development or shipping. Development basically means you have the console that you can open up and change things, do debugging. Alright, so that's good. We've got our list of maps to package. We have the maps and modes set up here. Now if we go back to our main window, right, so you can close that. I'm going to go up to File, and then Package Project. It's kind of about halfway down. And then see, these are all the different options that you've got. And then let's go to Windows, 64-bit. And then let's go to the desktop, right? And then I'm going to create a new folder, and then I'm just going to call it the name of the game, so Doomsday. And then select that new empty folder, right? And then it's going to start packaging. And when it's done, you will have a game. So there's probably a little icon that comes up at the bottom of the screen. Notification says packaging project for Windows 64-bit. Little ... Depending on the size of your project, this may take a while. We don't have a whole lot in here, so this should be done like right now. If you want to see the log, there's an option that says show log. It's not fun to read, especially when there's errors and you have to go dig through all that and figure out what happened. Basically, if there's red in there, that's not good. It's probably not going to package. Sometimes those are like bad, error warnings that need to be fixed. Yeah, warnings are usually yellow. But it should package. And when it's done, if I go to the desktop here, I have a new folder with my game on it, right? So here it is. And then you can open it up, and I'll say Windows, no editor. And then here is the game. Now this is the name of the actual project, right? So there are some tutorials online I can probably show you for how you can change the actual name of the project itself, so that this will change the application name. We had an incident not long ago, it's been a year or two. We had to duplicate our project that we were working on because there's a new version of the editor out, so we moved over to that and we named our project 2. Well, we actually had the official name on there, so it said that name, plus the number 2, and people are like, that's not a sequel, is it? It's like, actually, no, this is the second. So we had to go and change that. So you can do it. It just takes a little bit of time to set up. So, but yeah, this is the game file. You can click and run it. And here's our game. So if I hit play, we've got our characters, right? And all the stuff we had from third person, right? If it lags a whole lot in the editor, that means you might have some things to change performance-wise, but you should see a performance increase now when you're playing the game by itself because it's not running the editor at the same time. Right? And if I press the tilde key right underneath escape, right, I still have the console, right? That's what makes this a development build, so you can test things. And I don't have a pause menu right now, so if I open up the console and type, excuse me, open, and then you can type in a level name, so main menu, right? And it'll load that map, right? And then now I can hit quit. So if you had a pause menu, right, you can go back to main menu and then get out of there. But yeah, this is an actual game. You can send this to somebody, let them play it. Inside of these folders here, it'll have any pack files, right, that are created. So basically any extra content, I think that's how they describe it, as an extra pack. So there's the main pack file, and if you let's say you had mods or something, those would go here. Mods. Yeah, so like if you go into Epic Games Launcher and you go under the section that says like games that have mods, so there's like Ark Survival Evolved and some other stuff like that. I think they're probably going to be using a lot of these pack files. And then under saved, you have like a crash report client, right? And then you have some options for the INI files. Some of this stuff will be in the development build, right? Some of it will not be in the shipping build. And then the logs, right? You can see what happens. So it's trying to run stuff. The font on here is really large. Right? And then this one over here, this is basically where the actual game is. It just gave you a shortcut here, essentially. If you rename that, it'll mess it up, so I wouldn't do that. And then there's some redistributables, if y'all know what those are, right? So if you need to install like a different version of Microsoft, was it C++ or whatever? So it has the Unreal Engine for prerequisites for somebody that doesn't, have them already. They can run that. If it's going through Steam or something like that, it'll take care of that for you the first time you run it. But yeah, we have our game file. So if let's say you add more maps, right, and you have transitions in between them, you just go back to project settings, check to make sure this is good, and then under packaging, just add more maps here. Right? I don't believe there's a limit on how many you can have. Just make sure that if you move them, that you go and update this and make sure it's okay. And the actual file size is not all that big. If I right click on here and go to properties, almost 300 megabytes. So for 2 levels, I don't have a whole lot into there. That's not very big, but if you have a lot of art and whatnot in your levels, that'll go up real quick. So just something to keep in mind. And then let's say I wanted to give this to somebody, right, for them to play. Should probably compress it. So right click, send to, compress zip. It'll zip up the game. And you can put it online or whatever you want to do with it, right? So yeah, that's a process for you to, package your game. You can run it, play it, get other people to try it, see what they think, and keep working on it. Next week, next Friday, on Milestone, I believe we're on 3 now, we need to see a zipped version of your game. uploaded, so that we can all download it and try it out. So I'm going to upload this to YouTube. I'll let you guys work on your project for the rest of the class. If you have any questions about this or something we talked about last time, I think we talked about projectiles and stuff last time. If you got any questions about that, let me know.